Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network. And welcome back, everybody. We like to bestow upon people who go above and beyond the title of Professional of the Year. And by that, I mean people that help other people change their lives, move their lives forward. I found somebody that definitely today fits that. And she has been helping people through counseling and therapy and so much more for at least a decade. I'm going to say a decade and a half. I'll get a complete ruling on that in just a second. She is, without a doubt, our Professional of the Year, and she's the program director of Prevail Recovery in Tennessee. Lori McCarter joins us today on the program. Hey, Lori, how you doing today?
Good morning. I'm doing well.
Good to have you with us. You, just looking back at your history of working in the area of therapy and counseling, how many years have you been at that?
I have been in this field for 35 years.
Wow. And that, I want to get your backstory in a second, but that begins with nursing in general. So you were helping people from the beginning.
Yeah, I had been a nurse for 10 years before that.
Wow. Tell us about your current position where you work at Prevail in Knoxville. What type of center is that?
Prevail is a partial hospitalization program for people who suffer from substance abuse. We also address some mental health, minor mental health disorders at that program also.
So you wouldn't be in that center unless you had a substance abuse challenge, right?
Right.
Got it. When we say partial hospitalization, what does that mean?
Partial hospitalization is a level of care that is not residential. They're not living in the facility. They're there for 5 hours of therapy a day, group counseling, individual therapy, and the kind. And then they live in housing either with us or with someone else, or they may come from home. But they're there 6 days a week.
Now I run deep here, so I'm curious the type of therapy they receive. What type is it?
We do a lot of DBT, CBT, motivational interviewing. Whatever we can do to reach them.
And that's why I asked. I figured it was DBT. I'm intrigued by a lot of this, to be honest with you. I wish I took psychology in school. I did not. I really regret it. I'm very serious about that. But, it's never too late. As a counselor, what type of things do you do there within the center?
Within the center, I schedule the groups. I make sure that things happen. I work directly with the patients. I am a clinician, and so I do individual therapy. I do groups with them. I make sure that we have qualified staff to be in there working with our clients.
Looking back at your history as a treatment specialist, as a counselor, program director of another center there in Knoxville, it seems that it kind of centers around drug recovery. Would you say that you've worked a lot of years in that area?
That's all I've done for 35 years.
Why is that?
36 years ago, I went through a program and I got clean and sober from alcohol and drugs. And a year after that, the person that was a leader in that facility that I went through started his own business, and he called me and asked me to come to work for him.
I love that. You walk the walk and talk the talk.
I do.
Yeah. When you're helping people, you get it. Like you can relate to what they're going through. It's not like you just went through a program, got a certification. I need a job. Here I am. Let me plug it. No, you're feeling it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I also detect that you're an empath. Would I be right in saying that?
Yes.
Yeah. People tell me that I have a good read on people, and quite honestly, I only found out taking a strength assessment test in the last 9 months that my number 2 strength, number 1 is communication. Duh, this is what I do and have forever. I'm an empath as well. Yeah. And I never thought that. Yeah. But I guess that's why I pick up on others. Right. That's what kind of motivates them and moves them forward. This goes back decades. I'm going to say 4. And you said 35, but I mean, going back to the beginning, your nursing career, we're talking like 44, to be honest, 45. What got you into that field? What made you want to even start with nursing?
You know, I always knew growing up that I wanted to be a helper. I wanted to help people. When I was in high school, I didn't like school, and when I graduated high school, and the only reason I graduated high school was because it was a requirement in my family that you graduate high school. I graduated in the last 4% of my class. But when I went to nursing school, I graduated in the top 4% because I was very interested in the body and how it worked and how I could help people. And so it was just, I don't know, it was just something that I always knew that I wanted to do was to help people. And so I did.
Wow. I can relate in a lot of ways. I wasn't a great high school student either. And the funniest part is I didn't do that well in English, but I talk for a living. Go figure.
Right.
I guess it depends on the domain you're in. You know, if I'm sitting behind a desk and reading Macbeth, doesn't do anything for me, but, you know, talking to people's fun. Interesting. I'm intrigued. You learn things.
Absolutely. People have always amazed me. I've watched people all my life. You know, I'll sit in the airport and watch people walk by and just kind of think about what their life is like. I mean, it has helped me as far as in my counseling skills because I can watch behavior as they're talking to me and see where they're at, you know.
Isn't it cool to do that? I do the same thing. I might hang with a friend at a restaurant or whatever, and we'll do sort of call it, who are these people? And you look at them and you don't want to judge, but you create a story around them. And then, you know, we'll go back and forth whether we agree or not. Even watching a couple and their body language, you know, where they're at in their relationship. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
No judging. It's just that, you know, you take a look and
not at all.
Yeah,
not
exactly.
At all. It's curiosity more than anything else. Because, like I said, people just amaze me.
That's a great word, curiosity, involving it. Working with people with drug challenges, substance abuse challenges, what do you want the rest of the population to know?
You know, this is a field that doesn't need to be competitive. This is a field that needs to be connected, and we need to have resources that if I can't help a client, that I at least pass them on to somebody who can. You know, our mantra is do no harm, and my mantra is if I can't help them, don't hurt them. And so, you know, I always want to refer to the best practice place that I can send them to if I can't take them. You know, people put them on waiting lists because they want them to come into their facility, and what I've learned is people die on waiting lists. And that's just not where I'm at. You know, my job is to help people, and my job is to help people get the help that they need. And, you know, I try to be a voice for people who may not have resources or something. And so that is it. For the bottom line is this is not a competition. We are never going to run out of clients. You know, the sad thing is, but we have to be able to connect with other programs to make sure that people get what they need.
You have an amazing tenacity. It sounds like if somebody needs to be helped, you're going to find a way to get it done.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's what I do.
Amazing. I've had conversations with people that run drug awareness programs in high schools, done podcasts with that as well. And they tell me that the drug situation currently in our country is so much worse than anybody would ever imagine. Now, you're pretty much... What do you want to tell us about that? What you've experienced, what you're seeing? Tell me more.
You know, COVID just about did us in as far as overdoses. You know, I believe that people are meant to be in communities, but addiction isolates people. And so when you further isolate people like they did during COVID, you know, the stay at home and you know, all of that, it tripled our overdose rate. People died of overdoses 3 times more during that time. On top of that, we've got the fentanyl thing. I have clients who come in and we do their first drug screen and we're going, okay, it's positive for this, fentanyl, blah, 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 blah. And they're going, I never used fentanyl. And I said, bottom line, out there you don't know what you're using because they mix fentanyl with everything because it's cheap. And so people are using stuff that they don't even know because they're getting pressed pills that look like the real thing, or they're getting pot that's been laced with fentanyl or something like that, and that is a killer. That is a killer. the drugs that are out there now are just so much more potent than what, when I was getting clean and sober. It's just incredible, the stuff that's out there these days. And people really don't know what they're getting. And so, they would go into the same person and get the same amount, but it's not the same amount because you can't measure fentanyl as closely as you do other stuff. And so it's not the same amount, and people are dying from overdoses of it or being Narcaned multiple times because of it.
So much to process there, including let's talk about the fentanyl situation. It's my understanding that even a grain, like a piece of sand, would be enough to take down a number of people. And then if there's 4 of those and, one hit or one, vapes that somebody buys or whatever it might be, forget it. And I think the illusory here is that people think that when they buy a vape or whatever, that there's some kind of regulation in terms of what goes in it, like a lab or something. No, this could be the cartel in Mexico mixing it up. They don't. Wow.
Yeah, there is no. These people are pressing pills that look like Valium or look like an opiate or something, and what you're getting is pure fentanyl.
Yeah, and that pill press. $1,000, whatever. If you've got one,
Exactly.
Pull the handle, and there's the emblem on it, and it's essentially counterfeit.
Yes.
And to your point, as you said before, in terms of the potency, the weed that's out there now is vastly different than what was out there, say, 30 years ago, right?
Definitely. I was looking at some of these, legal shops and stuff, and the amount of THC that is in what the amount of THC is like doubled or tripled in what is being sold today.
It's crazy. What are your feelings on legalization of THC?
Legalization, it's still, for people in recovery, it's still just not going to, it still doesn't need to be an option because it is initially one of the gateway drugs that gets them into deeper, more wanting a higher high or something is the way I explain it. But, it's kind of like alcohol. Alcohol's legal, but I'm an alcoholic and it's not something I can do. Well, I can, but I choose not to. Because when I do, I kind of break out like in handcuffs and stuff. And so, sorry, but yeah, I mean, having pot legal is still, it still needs to be understood that a drug is a drug is a drug, and it can take them either back to their drug of choice or take them to a worse drug of choice, and so it's what we call cross addiction. And so it's you either become addicted to the new source or you go back to your original source. So it's just something that is not recommended at all for people in recovery for any kind of THC. So it doesn't matter if it's legal or not. It's still they have to make a choice not to use it.
Yeah. I spoke with somebody again that he has a drug awareness program he does in schools, and he's trying to get more exposure for it around the country. And he's legit. I mean, he has been a law enforcement individual for decades. He even got shot doing a drug situation, an arrest. And his brother, way back, was killed by a drug addict. They befriended each other. The guy, his brother, long story short, but I think it's impactful to understand what's going on out there. His brother just got married, and he and his bride were somewhere down south. I think it was maybe Georgia, somewhere around there. Met a couple, started talking, at a restaurant. They were friendly, and again, they were just on their honeymoon. Day after they got married, this couple killed the one man and severely injured the woman over drugs.
Wow.
Just the horror stories that go on and on and on. And the man who has the drug awareness programs in schools says the gateway to everything is one beer. High school student, middle school student has a beer, feels a little buzz. on to the next, on to the next, on to the next.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts about that in terms of what gets people into this?
They started out years ago. They were saying that marijuana was the gateway drug, that beer was the gateway drug. Now they're saying sugar. Sugar is a gateway drug because people become addicted to sugar. And so I think that if people have that addictive gene, that it doesn't matter what they use, that they will eventually fall into that. They'll cross that line into addiction. And so, it could be beer, it could be marijuana, it could be nicotine. Anything can get them past that line. I know people that smoke 3 and 4 packs of cigarettes a day. I don't know how they can afford it, but they do. But also, I think that anything that is going to, the thing is that when people use, the brain gets hijacked. It hits those dopamine receptors, and it makes them feel really good, and so they want to feel really good all the time. The problem is that first hit is the only time they will ever feel that good. The rest of the time they're just chasing that, wanting to feel that good. It will never ever achieve that again.
As a counselor and therapist over the years, is there a thing known as an addictive personality? You just said if somebody has the addiction gene, is that kind of the same thing where? And I'm going to be very transparent in saying this, Lori. I knew somebody a few years ago, and they had been using things years before, call it like 10 years before I met them, and just watching them. And I met them fairly recently. We became friends, kind of close. But I would watch her be addicted to different things. And it could be a bottle. It could be a pill. It could be this. It was just, I need something. Maybe it could turn into porn and sex, whatever it is. Is there an addictive personality? Is that real?
Yeah. I believe there is. And it is something lacking inside of that person. What they are doing is they're looking for something on the outside to make them feel normal inside. And normal is a subjective term. We don't know what normal is. We can assume normal is consistent. I don't know what normal is.
Is anybody normal? Let's be honest. Is anybody normal?
No, I don't think so.
I'm not being facetious there. I'm like, well, what is normal?
Exactly. I tell people it's a setting on a washing machine.
Okay, if that does it for you, then that's great.
But I think that people are looking for something to make them feel better inside. They may have grown up in an abusive home where they were never enough, or they were told they were never enough, or they would never amount to anything. And so it just drills this hole inside of them that is just so deep that they need something to fill it, and so they find stuff on the outside that makes them feel good.
Wow.
Whether it's a relationship or food or gambling or sex or drugs or alcohol. Yeah.
How long, everybody's different, I understand, but how long is the recovery process in general?
It started out many years ago. It was, treatment, inpatient treatment, 30, 35, 45 days, whatever you could. Then managed care stepped in, and managed care set the limit at 28 days. And this is a disease of the mind that takes a long time to heal. I mean, they have to learn completely different coping skills because their coping skill was to pick up a drug or a drink and use. And so we're tasked with teaching new coping skills that they're lacking, and so that's what we do. But anywhere, I tell people long-term treatment. Right now, our program, we take people from an inpatient program that they'll have completed 30 days, and they'll come to us and they'll do 30 days in PHP, and then we'll drop them down to IOP, which is three hours a day, 5 times a week, and then a little bit, and we'll keep them up to 90 days. So they'll have effectively had at least 4 months of treatment. And then, I tell people I don't guarantee that you'll stay sober, but I guarantee when you walk out of these doors, you will have the tools to stay sober should you choose to pick them up and use them.
What is the key to staying sober?
Being willing to do something different, to listen to somebody else, help guide your way for a little bit. I used to have a sign on my door that says, if at first you don't succeed, go back and do what your counselor told you to do initially. just simply because I have been through this experience. I know what works. I know what doesn't work. Please, we tell them to do very, very small things. Go to 12-step meetings, go to support groups, get a sponsor, find people of like mind. And the reason we tell people these things is because they work. These are the things that work. A recovering community. One of my mentors was Bill Hood, and he always said, in order to maintain sobriety, you had to have a strong spiritual foundation and other recovering people.
Wow. Well, there are other recovering people. There you go. That's part of the community. And I hear from everybody, you need that support. Spiritual? We're just about out of time, but I want to ask you, how do you define that?
To me, spiritual is about connection.
With something?
It's about connection. Connection with something. What we suggest is people find a higher power, and sometimes they don't want to talk about the God aspect, and so I say, use the group. The group, there are many people sitting in this room who have more power than you do collectively. So listen to what they have to say, So it's about connection.
I completely agree, and that's why I asked you. I wanted to feel you out on that. But in my journey, I've realized that spiritual, you can connect it to religion if you want to. I've actually gravitated a little back from that in that I believe we need to believe in something that's bigger than us, whatever it is. You could believe the universe is here to support you. We're not here to be miserable and addicted to things. Things happen, I get it. But in the big picture, we're here to have joyful lives and prosper. By the way, I kind of laughed inside when you said that you have a sign on your door that says, if things don't work out, go back to the, what the counselor told you. In my mind, and again, this is only in the last couple of years in my journey, I would have a sign on my door that says, if things don't work, go back to what your mom told you or your parents told you. Because, it keeps coming up, all the things that, they used to say. And you were younger. You're like, you're old, shut up. What do you know?
Right.
It was true.
It's so funny. I tell my clients when they come in there and they're complaining about their teenage kids, I say, hold on, because when they're about 30, they're going to come back and they're going to say, Mom, you were right.
I have a teenage daughter. I'm a single dad, 16 she is. And, I don't need to hear that, but if my mom was here, I would open her door and say, you were right. I should have listened. Even the silly cliches, go with the flow. Well, now I see what that means. The flow is life, and you got to go in a certain direction. The river of life's going to take you. Go with the flow. If you fight it, you're going that way anyway. So you might as well just float on your back and get there.
So in recovery, we say trust the process.
And I agree with you in life in general. Lori, fantastic talking with you, and thank you for spreading awareness on a major situation and how people recover from it. All the best to you. And that's Professional of the Year. I don't even think that's strong enough title for what you've done and accomplished. I really mean that.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, so much more if we ever get a chance to talk again. There's
absolutely.
It is awareness, and again, I appreciate you being here.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your time too.
Thank you. We'll be right back. Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Adopt US Kids presents Multiple Choice Parenting.
Your daughter just had her first breakup. Do you A, put yourself in her shoes?
How could he do this to you? And for Sheila, she has split ends.
B, console her?
Oh, sweetie, this is going to happen a lot. 4, maybe 5 more times before you get married.
C, take charge?
Got to get this all straightened out. Give a little talking to, man to man, mano a mano. Hey, Steve! It's now a good time? No? Okay, no problem. Bye.
Or D, help her find a new boyfriend?
I know a great place to meet boys. The internet. Nice, single boys. Never mind. How about some ice cream?
As a parent, there are no perfect answers. But you don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same.
For more information on how you can adopt, visit adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.